So right now I'm going to share with you guys how fermentation works in a donut. The ingredients needed are high protein flour, instant dried yeast, butter, powdered milk, caster sugar, egg, full cream milk, baking powder and salt. Firstly, add 1 cup of full cream milk into a beaker. Make sure the milk is warm. It is because when the yeast hits the warm milk, it will be activated. But remember, make sure your milk is not too hot. Then, add 4 tablespoons of caster sugar into the mixture. And don't forget to add 2.5 teaspoons of instant dried yeast. This will help to leavening the donut. Lastly, stir the mixture gently. Then prepare another bowl. Add in 540 grams of high protein flour or bread flour. You can also use half of high protein flour and half of all-purpose flour. After that, add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Add 70 grams of butter. I'm using Anchor brand, but if you want to use margarine, then go ahead. Add in 1 whole egg into the bowl. After that, go and have a look at your yeast mixture. You can see tiny bubbles on the mixture. If there are none, you eventually need to redo the steps again. If your yeast mixture is in a good condition, then you can add the mixture into the bowl. Turn on your mixer at low speed. Let it mix for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you don't have a mixer, then you can just use your hand instead. Make sure your hand is clean. While it is mixing, add 1/4 cup of water. Then let it continue to mix your dough. Once you see the side of the bowl is clean without a dough sticking on it, then at that time you will know that your dough is ready to be kneaded. Knead your dough for about 7 to 10 minutes. Use your knuckles while kneading the dough. Then shape the dough into a round shape. Grease your bowl with some oil. It is better for you to use an olive oil. Next, seal the bowl with a cling wrap. This is how it will look like after wrapping it neatly. Let the dough rest for at least 1.5 hours. During this period, you will see that the dough will start to rise. As you can see, after 1.5 hours, the dough has doubled its size. Next, it's time to shape the dough. Separate the dough into smaller sizes. Weigh the dough so that you will get an even size. As for me, each dough I weigh will be 45 grams. If you don't have an appropriate donut mold, you can just use a small cup to make the hole in the middle. Then place your donut onto a tray. Make sure you sprinkle some flour to prevent the dough from sticking onto the tray. Then it's time to fry the donut. Make sure the oil is hot before you put the donut into the pan. Fry your donut until it turns into a golden color. So these are the results. Back to our main topic, how fermentation works in donut. As fermentation takes place, the dough slowly changes from a rough, dense mass lacking extensibility and with poor gas holding properties into a smooth, extensible dough with good gas holding properties. Get to know the process. The yeast cells grow, the gluten protein pieces stick together to form networks, and alcohol and carbon dioxide are formed from the breakdown of carbohydrates, starch, sugars that are found naturally in the flour. Yeast uses sugar by breaking them down into carbon dioxide and water. The yeast needs a lot of oxygen in order to complete this type of fermentation. In a baked dough, oxygen supply is limited and the yeast can only achieve partial fermentation, and instead of carbon dioxide and water being given off, carbon dioxide and alcohol are produced. This is called as alcoholic fermentation. The carbon dioxide produced in this reaction causes the dough to rise, ferment or proof, and the alcohol produced mostly evaporates from the dough during the baking process. During fermentation, each yeast cell forms a center around which carbon dioxide bubbles form. Thousands of tiny bubbles, each surrounded by a thin film of gluten, form cells inside the dough piece. The increase in dough size occurs as these cells fills the gas. This is a mind map which will help you to visualize more about how dough fermentation works. However, there are some factors that can affect the rate of fermentation. For example, dough temperature, water absorption, osmotic pressure, pH value, yeast level, and last but not least, yeast food. Let's answer your frequent thoughts. Why high protein flour is used? How to know whether the yeast is good to use? Why hot milk can be used to activate the yeast? Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video.